Welcome back to Track Talk, and jumping right into a game in 1849. We're going to start off with MD, and he will be bidding on, it looks like, the Studio Engineeria, so the mountain busting private. Edmund Dante's, great name by the way, will be bidding on the RSA, and that will be coming with an AFG share, so that's a pretty nice company to have in this game. AFG usually is a lucrative company. Giraffic will be bidding on also the Real Society, so going to be some competition for the presidency of the AFG. MJ Mills also bidding for this mountain busting company. So interestingly, all four of the players have decided to split up two of the privates, leaving the Campagna and Societa without bids. Probably N Deep doesn't pull here. He'll be competing for the private against MJ Mill, and then he'll leave a easy face value bid for Edmund Dantes on the Campagna if he does pull here. So I think that would be a mistake. I'd like to see him spread out his bid a little bit. And he does that. So Edmund Dantes also really not incentivized to pull here. May look to join on the Campagna or start the Societa. And he does join M Deep. So Giraffic, no opportunity for him here for a face value private. May see him join one of the other privates or bid on the Societa, which is looks like what he does. These privates are starting to fill up. So MJ Mill may look to just pull here and hope to win the two cheap privates. But that has the downside of giving Giraffic a face value private. So probably will join him there instead. And that's what we see. All the privates now have two players on them. M Deep, if he's feeling happy with his current position, may pull here and does. So he will be guaranteed a $5 private and is, I'm sure, looking to win one of these others as well. Probably not both of them. He probably has a better chance of winning the Campagna just because Edmund is on the Real Society. So you have to imagine that Edmund is not going to really want to price enforce on Campagna and then lose out on Real Society. But we'll see how that plays out. So I'm imagining that MD doesn't push too hard for the mountain busting, maybe just bids once and then passes. And it looks like they are going to bid at least twice now. Okay. It's actually bidding up pretty high. MJ Mill takes it for 75. So MD pressed his luck a little bit there, I think, and was able to eke a few extra dollars out of MJ Mill as a result. Now, I think MD does probably want this private, and I imagine Edmund is happy to let it go and bid for the next one. But let's see how expensive it goes. So MD does win it. Edmund passes kind of as expected, and now we'll see a competition between MJ Mill and Giraffic for the Societa. Giraffic really wants to win this, which puts MJ in a pretty good position to price enforce. So I think that MJ Mill should be bidding this up a little bit just to hurt Giraffic. Instead, Giraffic just passes. That's a little bit surprising. I think that leaving the auction without a private is not ideal. Certainly, you don't want to overpay for your privates, but just passing right away like that seems a little bit passive. I guess he still is on the Real Society, so maybe just really hoping to win that one. They should really bid this up now because one of these players is going to be leaving without a private. And they jump to 190, so Edmund signaling that he is ready to go to the wall for this. And it's getting quite high, 210 already. And Edmund actually wins for 220, so an expensive private. He does get two shares for it, so not the end of the world. But Giraffic, as mentioned before, by passing, has left the auction without a private. AFG picking a home token, probably picking Terra Nova, but we'll see. And does. This leaves Edmund Dantes with priority into the stock round, and he may just look to pick up another share of the AFG, give it a little more company cash, which he does. Giraffic now has his option of parring companies, and unfortunately the SFA is the second company, so not the most attractive company, especially for someone without mountain busting or teleport. but he will be forced to take it or hope that someone else does. He passes, so looking for one of the other players to take this. But unfortunately, the CTL is probably the only company in the game that's worse than the SFA. So even if someone takes this SFA, Giraffic might end up with the CTL. MJ Mill also not looking to par a company. MDeep does have a lot of cash, probably would be happy to take a company, but unfortunately for him, these two options are not great. So he will just buy a share in the AFG, and the other players are joining him. It looks like Graphic is going to just sit on his cash. This is terrible for him. He has no private income, and the other players, while they will be falling back this round, at least have private income. So I think Graphic is going to be forced to start the SFA because the other players have income while he does not. First operation of the AFG, probably heading east towards Syracuse and the offboard. But yep, so he's going to lay towards Ragusa and eventually towards the offboard. He probably just buys one train here. Um, well, he could token next operating round and run two trains. Wouldn't be terrible for him. I don't know that it's worth buying a second train just to hit the $20 offboard, but we'll see what he decides. So he does buy two trains. And we'll see if Giraffic is going to be forced to float the SFA here. I think the other players may be happy to just sit on their private income and a share or two of the AFG and let this game continue without Giraffic if he doesn't bite the bullet. He is going to jump on the AFG train, and MJ Mill will buy another share. So the AFG looks like it's going to be split up, and everybody's going to be running some of it. Unfortunately for Edmund, this has left the double share exposed, and the only player with cash to buy it is Giraffic, so he could actually look towards stealing the presidency. And we'll see if he is able to. Well, it's definitely possible. It's just whether or not he decides to. Looks like he's taking the double share, so probably. Um, oh, I miscalculated. So the double share just ties him with Edmund. It doesn't give him the presidency. But that is bad news for Edmund because he has the presidency share, which is a 20% cert, and now another player has the same amount of the company as him. So not ideal. All these players are running very scared of the SFA. And Edmund operating again. He doesn't have priority, but he does have priority on Giraffic. So could look to just lay expensive track, buy a bunch of four trains, and then dump this company, and hopefully be able to start something new after a payout. That would incentivize the other two players to sell out, but if they sell out, they're going to be forced to float those companies, the SFA and the CTL, that they were so hesitant to do before. So he'd put everybody in a bad situation, but it may be worth it. Looks like he lays a $40 track, so not super expensive. And he runs his two trains, does pay it out. Does he buy a bunch more trains and just dump now? He buys a third train. That doesn't really deplete the treasury enough that I think it's a very attractive dump, but we'll see how this plays out. MJ Mill's going to sell out, and he takes the SFA. M Deep also selling and investing in the SFA, so not eager to start the CTL, although I believe he does not have the teleport. So I guess he doesn't really want to jump on the CTL, which is reasonable. Edmund buying a cheap market share, and Giraffic also going to be staying neck and neck with Edmund. So there's a death match for the control of the AFG. MD further investing in the SFA, and actually will be able to steal the presidency from MJ Mill, who parted a little bit too high to defend. MD steals the presidency, and it looks like Edmund will have priority as a result. So bad news for MJ Mill there. SFA going to be heading east almost certainly, and he buys the last four. Does have cash for the first six, and skips. So will not be able to buy in his privates, which is a little bit surprising. You would think that he would want to leap on that opportunity and hopefully get a bunch of shares in the next stock round. AFG's operation. Edmund Does have priority, doesn't have any privates that he can buy in. So still not really a very dumpable company. I suppose he could buy a 6 here and waste more cash and then dump. And dumping the AFG for Edmund is really good because he will be able to exchange the president for the double share if he wants. So I think that he should probably look towards doing that. He is going to be running 3 trains now, and he pays that out, buys a 6, and he's redeeming shares. Um, Not entirely sure what he's doing there. Maybe just looking to exhaust the presidency or the treasury. But putting shares back into the treasury doesn't really hurt the company. So maybe not going to be dumping. Instead, buying his market share. And does Jurafik buy up the 5th share or does he dump out here? He does. So these players are just in a gridlock or a boxing match where they are just bound by blood in this company. MJ Mill does have money to buy a share, but can't take back the presidency. Um, and we have 2 split presidency companies. This is funny. And it looks like M Deep will have priority as a result of that stock buy. Second operation from the SFA and getting absolutely no help from the AFG and will be running quite poorly, only able to hit a dip. Has 1 train and running for just 30. Doesn't even get a stock bump as a result of that very weak run. He is buying in his private. Could have done this last round, I believe. Um, didn't he buy a 6? No. Um, so he's going to be looking to, I guess, just buy in his privates and start another company. What is the next company that's available? Looks like the CTL. So again, not a super exciting company. AFG running 4 trains now. Doesn't have great track. Does link up the SFA, but as it's operating after the SFA, unfortunately, the SFA doesn't get any benefit from that. But we'll take advantage of it next operating round. AFG running 4 trains as noted, paying out 180, but this is split between 2 people evenly, so not really helping either one of them relative to the other. And second operating round, now operating ahead of the SFA as a result of the SFA not paying out enough. He will continue to lay track. So it looks like he's heading towards the RCS. Kind of an unusual track for this company to be laying so early in the game. And still running for, looks like 180 and pays it out. SFA does have a better route now, can drop a token in Terra Nova if it wants. And instead going to be upgrading Caltaniseta, not sure how you pronounce that one, and running its single train. It does hit the offboard, does have the token or the private that increases the value there a little bit. So we'll run for 90, which is going to be enough to move up, but still running for quite a bit less than the only other company in the game. Buys a 6, and MDeep does have priority, so could be looking at a dump of the SFA. And instead going to invest further. Needs to be careful about opening up that double share for the other players. And Edmund is going to just hand it over to Jurafik. So Jurafik's in a position where he's going to be running 2 double shares in stock round 5, which is pretty good. Especially in a game where there's only been 2 companies floated, having both of the double shares is really powerful. MJ Mill has no shares to buy, and it's just going to pass. So all these players are just sandbagging and refusing to progress and float companies. Going to end up being quite a weird game in that case. MDeep, having bought a share and exposed the double share, is now selling out of the company, dumping it on MJ Mill, and will be, I guess, floating the CTL. May look to see the other players sell out now that the CTL has been broken. The ATA is a much more attractive company, and the IFT and RCS are right behind it. So I imagine we'll probably see Edmund or Jurafik sell out of the AFG and hop on one of these other companies now. Edmund passing, And Giraffic does sell out, so he was just waiting for an opportunity to not have to start the CTO. Um, he is leading in net worth, so his reticence of starting these companies and just forcing the other players to do it for him has paid off. I'm a little bit surprised that he made that work, but the other players have played right into his hand, it looks like. So he is going to be able to start the ATA, it looks like, which is a great company. He pars it quite high, and MJ Mill is just going to continue to buy shares in the company that was dumped on him. Edmund is buying an AFG, and Giraffic, does he buy another share in the ATA here? Instead, selling out of the SFA, and looks like he's going to really try and capitalize the ATA quite heavily early in the game. He's maxed out on ATA shares and will be giving priority to MJ Mill, I think. CTL's first operation, probably heading down towards the SFA. Could also look to link up with Palermo, but it's going to be kind of expensive and take him a while to get there. Can buy a 6 train. Not going to be able to buy into the 8s, but could leave it open for the other newly floated company. ATA, I think he has enough money to buy into the 8s here. He does, but needs to be a little bit careful about train cost. Could also issue to get money for a better train, but won't be able to do it in his first operation, of course. He buys the 6 and looks like he's pressuring for jumping into the 8. Will probably issue after buying his trains to get train money. 4 trains have rusted. That really hurts the AFG, of course, but he got his money's worth out of those trains. He ran for many more operating rounds than probably he should have been able to. AFG running a single train will be running worse now, but can upgrade some tiles to improve its run. Will be, it looks like, just racing over to the RCS. Is Edmund going to be the president of this company? Hard for him to guarantee that. It's the last company to float. So he's laying a lot of expensive track for a company that he may not, be president or even a significant investor in. AFG running his single train, probably going to be looking to redeem some shares here. This company is going to have trouble affording more expensive permanent trains because it was floated so early and got bought out. He's not redeeming any shares just yet. A little bit surprised to see that. SFA, he could link up with Palermo. It's a free track for him. Instead, going to upgrade its home tile. Is he running that track? I imagine, I guess he could run from either direction. And running for 110. He does redeem a share. I would have liked to have seen the AFG player do that as well. And he's going to be buying in his privates. Who still has privates in this game? Just the SFA player. So he might look to buy in that expensive private as well. CTL's second operation, he will eventually be heading over to Palermo, but it's going to take him another 3 operating rounds to get there. And has a single train, not going to be running too well. Unfortunately, none of those tiles are upgradable, and he only has a DIT in addition to his home tiles. He actually dropped his second token in the other gray tile, which really seems like a very short-term play and probably a mistake. He only has 1 train, so doesn't really need that tile, and that tile is going to be worthless for him for the rest of the game. Or that token will be, I should say. ATA running 2 trains. Currently only has 1 run, and unfortunately he's not going to be able to lay into Ragusa because he doesn't have the train money. So it looks like he'll only be running 1 train for this operating round. Still worth buying the 2 trains just to hurt the AFG, who's running 3 of the 4s though. He also doesn't issue any shares, and looks like he was unable to increase his stock value as a result of his poor run. So really rough game. These players are very poor, and it has just been very slow. AFG, does he link up with Palermo? It seems like he's been very motivated to get over there, so I imagine that's what we'll see. and still running a 6 train. Does he redeem any shares here? He withholds, and I guess we'll buy an 8. So he has no money to redeem there. He's going to run pretty well in the next operating round, but I do worry about him in the long term in getting a permanent train. SFA, he is not even laying track and running his 6 train. He does have enough to move forward, but actually withholds it, and it looks like he'll buy the last 8. So there'll be some pretty lucrative shares available in this stock round, as multiple companies are going to be running 2 trains, and they are the better trains at this point. MJ Mill, the only player with significant money, and probably looking to snap up some of these cheap shares. Needs to be careful not to give another double share to Giraffic, who actually has lost both of the double shares that he had earlier in the game, but would have money to snap up that SFA double share if it became available. MJ Mill buying his market shares. M Deep happy to help. Edmund without cash. Giraffic is going to buy an AFG, but the other players need to be a little bit careful, specifically MJ Mill. If they buy one more share of the SFA, it's no trouble to sell that AFG share and step up the double share. Instead, going to buy an ATA, so it makes sense, doesn't want to expose his double share. And I think the other players are passing. MJ Mill does now expose the double share. So a little bit of a clever play here. If Giraffic takes the bait, then MJ is going to maintain priority. And the other players could also look for that share, but they would have to sell multiple shares to do it. So probably not going to be seeing that. M Deep, he passes. Edmund also passes. Does Giraffic take the share? Um, I think it's tempting. I think that I would probably surrender priority. He's either going last or second to last, so why not take the the double share and then just go last? But he will pass. So CTL now operating again. Will he continue towards Palermo? Looks like it. Unfortunately, still running pretty poorly. So his president is going to be falling behind. Also unwilling to issue shares. So nobody is looking to really push trains here. ATA will be able to link up to Catania and improve its run. Actually, will not be able to improve its run because can't token in Catania, and will only be running 1 train again. Could also look towards Ragusa just temporarily to get a second run of its train. And that's what he does. So he'll link up with Catania next OR, and then the IFT is the next company to float. So he may be looking towards that presidency. But he is pretty far behind in priority, so not going to be guaranteed that he gets it. ATA running does drop a token that hurts the SFA. The SFA had numerous opportunities to defend that and pass them, so can't really complain too much about it. And the ATA is going to be running a lot better now. 240, probably the highest run we've seen in this game, which has been very poor so far. Edmund running 2 trains as well. Fortunately, he has the token in Terra Nova, so wasn't hurt by that. And he's going to upgrade Palermo. Should be able to hit it with at least one, with just one of his trains. Probably uses the 6 to get up there, and then runs the 8 along the south. He tokens Palermo, is now out of tokens, but has secured himself a fairly good run for the rest of the game. And he's paying for 250. Double share is unfortunately in the market for him, so it's not paying into his company. The SFA has been hurt by that token in Terra Nova. Not really sure where he looks to head from here. Has a lot of expensive track between him and important destinations, and he's just going to pass. Yeah, I think the SFA is in a real dangerous spot. No permanent trains, very low stock value, and no easy way to get more money in the company. He's going to withhold, probably looks to redeem his shares in the next operating round, or even in this operating round, I guess. But unfortunately, that double share is very vulnerable, and he's going last in priority, so he's not going to be able to take it. He also has 6 shares in the company already, so he wouldn't be able to get it anyways. He does redeem his share, so we'll get a little bit more cash into the company in the next round. CTL probably looking towards Palermo here, but he has been tokened out, so we'll be able to run to it, but is not going to be heading any further east through there. He Interesting. Was there not a gentle curved dit that he could have laid there? I see. It's the difference in the gauge that prevents him from running directly in. He's been laying the expensive normal gauge track, so he's going to have to wait till the next OR to get in there. Still running for just 90, not going to be increasing his stock value at all. And he issues shares. That unfortunately does apparently not get him enough money. Yeah, he's $3 short. That's awful for the 10. So really bad luck for him. Of course, there is actually no luck, just things have not gone the way he wanted. ATA is going to get into Catania now and will have a slightly better. Actually, he's not motivated to run into Catania because the offboard is much better. So not increasing his run, but looking probably to get the token there once it becomes available. Running for 240, which is pretty good. He pays that out and does have market share or treasury shares still, so his company is slowly getting cash. Edmund running 2 trains, no market shares, has achieved his long-term goal of getting to Palermo. Unclear where he goes from here. Looks like he will actually do the CTL's job for it, and now he's running towards the CTL home tile. Is that really the best run for him? I guess it must be. He's running for more than last time at least. So that's a little bit surprising. I would have figured that the Terra Nova into Syracuse route would have been better for him. I guess hitting Palermo twice is enough to overcome the otherwise underwhelming double dit run. SFA, he is closing his private, and is he looking to teleport anywhere? He teleports to Messina, which is going to blow up soon. Um, so I guess he's just hoping to close this company. It is getting close to the bottom left of the map. A little bit unclear what he's going for here. It does give him a run through Messina, but Calabria is only low value right now. It's not the 90 value yet, so I don't think that helps him that much, and he's going to lose that token. So very short-term play. Pays out for 260, and we're into the next stock round. So MJ Mill has the most cash, but is last in priority, so he's not going to be able to take either of these companies if the other players don't allow him to. CTL player is up, and he buys his own share from the market. Edmund, surprisingly buying an SFA instead of floating a new company. Um, the SFA was a double share. It does have a reasonable route for now, but that 6 train is not long for the world, and he's also going to be losing a token very shortly. So probably not my preferred choice. There was also a double share in the AFG available. A little bit surprised that he took the SFA. Giraffic, he is selling out and going to be starting the IFT. So he built all the track for the IFT with the ATA and is now going to reap the rewards. Nice pickup for him. And he buys his 3rd share. MJ Mill does have the option of starting the RCS now. RCS is a good company and has had track laid for it, but is tokened out in the middle of the map here at least. So not the end of the world that he gets that, but I'm sure he would have loved to have the IFT. And he's actually not even going to float the RCS. He is paying shares. And he's continuing to invest in the IFT. Does he think that he can steal this company? I suppose he could sell shares and make a push for it. Giraffic can also sell shares. His presidency in the ATA is secure. So maybe he's just pressuring to force Giraffic to sell out and defend. Edmund buying shares in the ATA uncovers the double share. That's a pretty attractive share, um, although the IFT is probably going to be rusting the sixes before the ATA can operate. Giraffic selling an ATA drops down, making it even more likely that the six won't run, and he's going to, I guess, buy a IFT to defend his presidency. He actually buys a CTL. That's interesting. And MJ Mill giving up the ghost, not pressuring the IFT any further. Traffic selling out of the CTL, so just doing some stock trashing, it looks like. And does he now buy an IFT? He does. So what was the significance of trashing the CTL? Not entirely sure. I don't know that that changed stock order very much. CTL has a 6 that is not going to run. Um, did he give it enough cash for a permanent train? Looks like it would have had enough cash anyways. So not entirely clear why he made that decision. MJ Mill passing, M Deep also passing, and it looks like MJ Mill will have priority. So first operation for the IFT, just newly floated in this stock round, probably upgrading its home tile of Catania to allow for a token from the ATA, and also going to be heading up towards Calabria. No rush towards Messina. There's no competition as he owns both of these companies, and it's going to blow up very soon. We'll buy the 10 here, shuffling money into the ATA before rusting the sixes, and then we see the sixes go. So I think Giraffic is in a dominant position in this game, definitely favored to win it. He has third most shares, but the two best companies is highly invested in them and is not going to have trouble buying more expensive permanent trains, whereas these other players are sitting on companies with non-permanent trains, very little cash. Um, so, and they have much worse track. So very favorable for Giraffic. ATA is upgrading the DITs, and it's a little bit surprised that he didn't lay towards Messina here, just to secure that run later in the game. Does he token in Catania? He doesn't need to. Um, there's no competition for that token, but I imagine it would improve his run. Um, well, now he's only running one train, so I guess it doesn't necessarily improve his run at all, actually. He does token it and is not running to it yet, but I assume he'll be buying a second permanent train here and probably using that in his next run. So he has secured both of the 10s, and the 12 is quickly arriving. It looks like the CTL is going to be forced to buy that 12, and he's going to have to sell shares to do it. So M Deep is unfortunately, I think, eliminated here. Um, but the other players will still be in contention. Giraffic is going to rapidly pull away in this game, though, I think. AFG running the 8 and upgrading Palermo, so going to be really loving that $130 run, but the rest of his run is very underwhelming, so actually not running that well at all. He pays that out. CTL going to have to fall on the 12 train, it looks like, and looking to link up in the south, but never really going to get there in a meaningful time frame. Selling an AFG did at least get the operation before he had to sell, and he now has bought the 12. So the token from the SFA was there for all of one operating round. Very unclear what the motivation there was. SFA does have a train, but we'll be looking at a permanent train very soon, so in a great deal of danger. SFA not laying any track, just hitting the Palermo, and probably needs to look towards withholding, but is, yes, is going to withhold. Very little share increase in value throughout this game for this company. It's just been spinning its wheels, unfortunately. IFT's first operation, or first run, not first operation. Does he start to head up towards Messina now? Looks like it. Of course, Messina can't be upgraded this turn, but they can at least reach it and then start running through it in the next one. running his 10 train for 150. Not the best run, but better certainly than other companies that had their trains rust. So still good enough. ATA running 2 trains is going to run quite well. Probably links up with Messina here and is paying out for 320. Giraffic owns the vast majority of this company and has 2 shares left in the treasury, so he's loving life right now. AFG not laying any track, and he actually pays out. He's another player that needs to be careful that he has permanent train money because they're on the horizon. The RCS is going to float and probably rust all these E trains. RCS, MJ Mills not going to be able to start it probably. Could sell down and start it, but is going to be putting himself in a rough spot because he only has $400 in the SFA and is going to need a permanent train there too. AFG completes its operations. CTL now. Unfortunately, this company is kind of dead in the water. He's going to be looking towards, I guess, bypassing Palermo perhaps, but going to be very expensive to do so, and he really doesn't have enough money. 12 train, he does have a permanent train at least, and he is paying out for 280. SFA probably has to withhold again in order to, not go bankrupt when these 16 trains come out. And also withholds. So MJ Mill is just getting pummeled here by the other players in the train rush. Does he have the cash now to float the RCS? Can sell the expensive IFT shares and the ATA share and will have enough money to float. But the tokens for the RCS are so expensive that he's not going to really be able to buy enough shares to out of pocket this 16 train. So I think if he floats the RCS, he probably is risking a bankruptcy by rusting his non-permanent trains. Instead, he's going to buy paying shares. This does open up the double share of the ATA, which is going to be a good share to have. Edmond Dantes or basically Edmond Dantes may be looking towards that, but MDeep is not going to be able to afford it. He's been lagging behind this game. He's going to buy his own CTL. Does have a permanent train, but has very limited potential in this game. And Edmond buys a CTL. So he buys the permanent share in the CTL. It's a lot cheaper than the ATA, but that company is a whole lot worse. So that's an interesting decision. Giraffic going to buy an IFT, so nobody is looking to float this RCS. I guess they're happy to just run their 8 trains for another set, and I think that benefits Giraffic. I mean, it benefits everyone, but Giraffic is going to just continue to fall or pull further ahead with the current status quo, I think. MJ Mill tanking the IFT a little bit, so it looks like maybe he is going to be floating the RCS. Actually just making room for a double share of the ATA. That was the share we highlighted before. I'm a little bit surprised it lasted as long as it did. So he's just adjusting his portfolio. Edmund buying a cheap CTL. Giraffic going to buy his own market shares. And looks like the CTL will actually be floating up. Edmund passing does have cash, but not interested in, well, I guess didn't have cash for the shares that were available. Couldn't buy an AFG as he's maxed. So that will leave him going second in priority, it looks like. A little bit surprised we didn't see the RCS float there. I would have imagined that someone would have been motivated to pressure the 8 trains, but they will live to see another day, it looks like. ATA, going to upgrade Messina, and I assume we'll be seeing runs into Calabria now. IFT, probably making the same run basically. Maybe looking to upgrade Catania so that it can bypass this tile here and get into that blue offboard with the 10 train in the next operating round. And he will token in Messina. He doesn't really need to token there. There's no competition, at least for the foreseeable future, and he'll have plenty of time telegraphed, or plenty of time where the companies will telegraph their intentions getting over there. He also can't really defend it because he can't token there with the ATA as well. So may live to regret that token if one of the other companies gets over there and tokens the ATA out. But for now, just going to drop the token. Running for 260, and he pays that out, of course. If the other players give enough time, he'll just pay his way to the 16 and rust their 8s for them. I imagine we'll see the SFA withhold and get there first, though. AFG, he is not laying any track and looks like he'll just continue to pay out. CTL, he is upgrading DITs. Does have cash for this tile here, so not really clear what he was doing with this DIT since he's not able to reach it. SFA needs to continue to withhold, unfortunately for this player. He's upgrading the central of the map and running for 200. He's actually paying out, which is a little bit surprising. I guess he's feeling like nobody's making moves towards the 16, so if he doesn't rust, or if he doesn't bring it out to rust, then we're gonna have to wait for the RCS, which nobody has been eager to start. Second round for the ATA. Does he lay the Y track here to help the IFT and himself? Instead, going to be upgrading Messina. I guess the IFT can lay that track for itself. Running for 470, which is great for him. IFT does lay that track that we were expecting. And I kind of would like to have seen Giraffic buy the second train out of the ATA into the IFT, since he owns 60% of this company and nobody else does. Whereas the ATA is split between him and MJ Mill. So would be kind of beneficial to him to run both trains in the IFT. IFT is tokened out of Syracuse, I guess, so wouldn't be running them quite as well, but that may actually be worth doing the math on for him as a president, whether or not it makes more sense to run for less but net more of it relative to the other players. And he will now shuffle the trains, kind of what we were expecting to see. Interesting that he doesn't pay more than $1 for it. He may look to issue here and get enough money for the 16, but he will have to buy a train against operating order to give the IFT a train slot to buy the 16. So a little bit surprising he didn't shuffle the money out of the IFT if he was trying to bring the 16 out. He also doesn't issue shares, so he's going to allow the other players to buy them or issue them later. AFG, he is not going to be laying any track and still just running for 200. He pays that out. CTL, this company is split between two presidents, and he's going to upgrade his DIT for an extra $10. He actually has a much better run than he did last turn. Well, not much better, but $30 more. So he must have been running a little bit less efficiently than he could have in the last operating run. SFA did not withhold last time, despite what I had imagined they would do, but is still under the gun here. May see them withhold here. And instead just laying expensive track and maybe looking to dump this on Edmund. Will not have priority, so not going to be dumping unless Edmund allows it to happen. So a little bit strange that it's laying this track. I'm not sure what it's hoping to accomplish there. I guess by doing this, it allows it to eventually lay a gentle curve on this mountain tile and then bypass Terra Nova, get into RCS or get into Palermo that way. I don't think that's really worth it when you're staring down the barrel of the 16s. He continues to pay out. Last operating round of the set, and ATA now just running one train. He will pay it out. Does he look to... So he doesn't shuffle trains again. So just going to be running two trains with the IFT. And running them pretty well. Of course, not as well as the ATA probably could have, but still nothing to sneeze at. And because he owns 60% of the company, probably still worth it to buy the train over. Does he issue shares here? He does not. So we are really going to be just waiting on this RCS company to bring out the 16s, it looks like. How's the market? Market's getting pretty slim. It's not going to break in this operating round, but it may not be worth it for players to float the RCS now, just because it's not going to have many operations. if it were able to rust the eights, it would force some permanent train buys, which would extend the market a little bit. But with the payouts being what they are, I don't know that you can really anticipate or guarantee that you're going to extend the game beyond the next set of operating rounds. So it may not be a safe decision to start it. AFG running an 8, pays it out. CTL, not really much track that it has left to lay, and it's just going to be upgrading DITs. He pays out 310. SFA, so he is actually not even linking up with his home token there. Did have the option, I assume. Is there a gentle curve DIT? They are all used, so that is unfortunate for him because he's laying a lot of expensive track. Paying out 250, and we're into the next stock round. So any of these players has the cash to float the RCS. MD, of course, has the least, but could sell shares to get a little bit more. And we'll see who wants to do it. The market has $2,100 in it. So it's not going to be MD. Does Edmund just jump on the RCS? He is selling shares, so it looks like he's probably looking to float the RCS extremely high. And actually just going to buy an IFT and leave that open for MJ Mill, it looks like, because Giraffic can't take advantage of it. Giraffic is not as far ahead as we had predicted, probably as a result of other players just splitting companies, but he is definitely in the lead still. Giraffic is buying an SFA. A lot of double shares are kind of exposed. Did someone just buy a double share? Yeah, MJ Mill jumped on the IFT double share, so that's a big boon for him, but he's far enough behind that I don't think he's going to be winning this game. MD buys the other double share. Edmund passing, not at cert limit, but unfortunately for him, is not able to buy any of the available shares. I think in this situation, you float the RCS, right? Like you're not going to be buying other shares otherwise. And it would hurt the other players to rust the eights. Of course, I guess he's heavily invested in an eight, so maybe that's why he's reluctant. But very unfortunate for him that he's not going to be able to hit his cert limit. Giraffic, on the other hand, is also passing. I wonder why he doesn't buy a AFG here. It wouldn't open him up to a dump, and the other players really don't have the cash to buy that double share. M Deep is close, but not quite there, and MJ Mill is already at his cert limit, would have to sell shares to do it. So everybody just passes. I think this will be our last operating round. Nobody looks like they're motivated to bring out the 16, and the RCS didn't float. So I think this is going to be the end of the game. Looking at the income, Giraffic was running for more. He was already ahead. I don't think anything really changed in the game state to disrupt that, so he should be taking this game. He is just building track to build track at this point. Probably has no real intention of ever getting over to Palermo. And running for 350. IFT. So the ATA bought um, the ATA bought the train out of the IFT against operating order and will allow the IFT to rust the eights. So I think this guarantees that Giraffic runs away with this game because the other players are going to be falling back this round. It does have the potential to extend the game, but I think that the runs will be high enough after the 16s come out that the bank will still break. So he is continuing the run over to Palermo, and he pays out 350. Does rust the trains, and now CTL will be running, is not on the hook for a permanent train, but unfortunately just really doesn't have a great run. He's withholding, interestingly, so maybe looking for a second permanent train, but he's going to have a hard time running both these trains, I think. AFG, falling back, trainless, will have to pay cash for a train, but unfortunately does not have to sell any shares to do it. He actually, okay, so he buys a reverse train. The potential for a reverse train in this game is not great. There's not a whole lot of narrow gauge track, but it at least minimizes his pain in terms of buying the expensive train. SFA may be looking to do the same thing, but again, doesn't have great track for it to take advantage of. And he actually does buy the expensive permanent train. Um, who bought the other reverse? I think I missed that. So the CTL bought it. I see. So that hurts the SFA, but that player was not really in contention anyways. So with the two reverse trains being bought instead of the expensive trains, I think we are definitely going to see the market break here, or the bank break. ATA, he is running for 350 still and will be paying it out. IFT running two trains, has a 16 train, but doesn't have, unfortunately, because of the token in Syracuse, routes to take full advantage of both of these trains. So I think that's why we're seeing him trying to get over to Palermo. And he's paying out for 460. CTL, two permanent trains, um, and is going to be running for 360. So very underwhelming for two permanent trains. AFG going to be running terribly now. And 180, that's abysmal for the end game. SFA, 16 train, but doesn't have 16 train route. Um, and going to be running for just 300. AFG, or sorry, ATA has entered the blue zone. So if the bank doesn't break, we'll see him entering the end game tile in the next operating round if he floats up. And he could link up with the Palermo track for the IFT, but looks like he's going to be upgrading Syracuse. So he had that option a while ago. I'm surprised that he didn't take that. Is he worried about other players' tokens? Shouldn't be. The CTL is nowhere, not going to be able to get over there. So surprising that he didn't do that earlier. Paying out for 350. IFT should be running much better now that it can run both of its trains more lucratively. And he's now paying for 500. CTL running two trains, still no interesting track. And the AFG is running terribly. SFA is running a little bit better, but still not going to be a game changer. So interestingly, the bank does not break by about 600 bucks. So the players get another round to fall further behind Giraffic, it looks like. I'm going to skip this stock round. I don't think there's anything of interest going on here. Unless anybody floated. So Edmund floated the RCS, but the bank's going to break, so probably not going to be worthwhile. ATA, just paying out. RCS, is he able to link up into Messina? He's buying his permanent trains. Does have a route into Messina. Doesn't drop a token there. That would hurt the ATA. So a little bit surprised to see that. Does have token money, obviously. And IFT, looks like he's just running his two trains and running for 600 now. So has been able to take advantage of the Palermo run. And CTL, now tokened out of Palermo, so running for worse than it was before. 330, just lost $30, but he wasn't in contention anyways. Edmund, this is such a pathetic run. It's painful to watch. SFA, running a 16 train, does have access into Calabria now, so probably can run a little bit better. Unfortunately, doesn't have a token along the route from Palermo to Calabria, so not able to hit both of them, which is sad news for the SFA. And instead of running into Calabria, is actually going to hit Catania. Probably more efficient to do that because of the dits along the way to Catania. So just got to be careful to actually do the math instead of just assuming that the highest revenue centers are the best. And in terms of income, Giraffic is ahead in income and well enough ahead in net worth that I do not expect the RCS to upset anything. Let's just see what the run of the RCS is, and then we'll skip to the end. ATA breaks the bank and pays out for 350, and it actually already has reached the end game spot. So the game will end um, right here, which I did not see happening. So Draftic wins, as expected for some time now. Interesting that this player was able to perform so strongly after, sandbagging and stalling the game at the CTL and the SFA for as long as he did with no private income. But as a result of pretty good play later on and some gifts in terms of being able to start the ATA and the IFT both with nice synergy, is able to take the game. Well played to him. Thank you for watching.